Well, some breaking news this morning. President Joe Biden has chosen Ketanji Brown Jackson as his Supreme Court nominee, and if approved, his choice would make her the first black woman selected to serve on the high court.
Biden called her last night and let her know that she was his choice to replace the vacant seat left by Justice Stephen Breyer, whom she clerked for years ago. Jackson would be the current court's second black justice. Justice Clarence Thomas, a conservative, is the other, and just the third in history.
Yeah, and here to talk more about this historic choice for the Supreme Court, we're joined by Santa Clara University Law Professor Bradley Joondeph. Professor Joondeph, thank you so much for joining us this morning as we're hearing the news of this nomination. Good morning.
Good morning to you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So your initial reaction then upon hearing the word?
Well, Judge Jackson's an exceptionally qualified candidate. I think she'll make a terrific addition to the court. On a personal note, I actually had the chance to work with her for a year when she clerked at the Supreme Court. So I'm a friend, and I'm very happy for her. I think it couldn't happen to a better person.
And friends of criminal justice reform are going to be very excited about this nominee. Why is that?
Well, she's going to be the first nominee to the Supreme Court who's been a public defender, those who are tasked with the job of defending criminal defendants who cannot don't have the funds to hire representation. So she'll bring a distinct voice to the court that it's never had before. Although there definitely have been people like Thurgood Marshall, like others who've been involved in criminal defense before, but she's the first one who's actually served as a public defender.
What about, when they look at the record of nominees, that's the time to get down and dirty, ask all kinds of questions. And when we often see divisive issues causing problems with confirmation, what, if any, do you see as any of those battles or questions creeping up? Or do you see anything? Because she hasn't ruled on a lot of things like, race or abortion cases that could make her controversial.
Yeah, I don't think she has that much. And one of the reasons she was probably very attractive, among many, that she was attractive to the president to select was that she's already been through Senate confirmation 3 times before. Each time she's attracted Republican votes, when it was for her confirmation to the Sentence Commission, to the district court, and then just last year to the Court of Appeals. She did, as a public defender, she represented some of the detainees at Guantanamo. I think she was involved in referring a possible ask about a commutation of her uncle's sentence. Her uncle had been convicted for a drug crime many years ago. Those are 2 things that people have mentioned that might come up, but her record looks, as these things go, pretty squeaky clean. The most controversial case she's ruled on in her time on the district court, I think, involved former White House counsel Don McGahn and his obligation to testify before Congress. She ruled in favor of the congressional committee. But really, as you say, there isn't a whole lot in there for opponents to attach themselves to.
But are there other ways to prevent that the Republicans who might be against this appointment that could prevent or delay or hold it up in any way?
Probably not. As long as the Democrats stick together, they have enough votes. There are various parliamentary maneuvers to slow things down, to demand that every single I be dotted and T be crossed. But as long as the 50 Democrats hold together and are willing to all vote in her favor, then the outcome would be inevitable. The concern is that maybe there's a health condition with respect to one of the Democratic senators, or if something comes out that somehow peels off one of the more conservative Democrats, like Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema.
So we've looked at her decisions in the past. Nothing jumps out in terms of hot button issues. But going forward, if she is confirmed to the court, what is on the horizon that she may have to weigh a decision on? What do you think would be the big ones ahead?
The court right now seems eager to take on a whole bunch of stuff. There's what might be left of abortion jurisprudence after this term. There is affirmative action. The court has already granted review in a case for next term coming from Harvard and the University of North Carolina that's really about the constitutionality of affirmative action at all going forward. There are lots of questions about separation of church and state. There are lots of questions about campaign finance.
And
lots
voting
of
rights,
questions
too.
about voting rights.
Yeah, voting rights. That's been a big hot button issue that's going to make its way to the court, almost certainly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This court has, I mean, depending on your perspective, sort of chipped away a lot at the Voting Rights Act, which is one of the landmark pieces of legislation in our country over the last 50 years. And, you know, that it looks as if that's going to continue into the future.
And she would be the second youngest as well. So she would be on for quite some time to come at the age of just 51.
Yes, and that's become a very important part of President's decision-making. I think it counted a little bit against Judge Childs, one of the other serious considerations, the potential nominee from South Carolina. It has been now seen, at least by the base of the party, as really important to get someone on there who will be there for a long time.
You mentioned earlier that she'll provide a fresh voice on the court, and that was something that California Senator Alex Padilla kind of mentioned a bit in his reaction this morning, saying that whoever is on the court, and he pointed her specifically, will be able to bring voices and perspectives that have been absent on that court for centuries now. That was probably pretty important in the president's selection, you think?
Absolutely. You know, it's only been 230 odd years since the country was founded, and yet we've never had an African-American woman, despite the obvious contribution of African-American women to what this country is. And yeah, that will be not just her racial background, but also, you know, everything about her career that she brings will be distinct. She's a second-generation college attendee, you know, with roots back to, as she describes, traces both sides of her family back to slavery. Those will be important aspects of what she brings to that institution.
Really, yeah, it will be historic if she is confirmed and sitting on the court. And you'll have an unprecedented best friend. You think she'll still take your calls? Well, you think she'll text you back?
I don't want to overstate that. Not best friend. We are friends. And I don't know how much time she'll have for me anymore, but that's okay.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, actually. As a graduate of Stanford Law, she's Harvard Law. How do you feel about that? Do you hold that against her in any way?
That's absolutely fine.
Good enough.
Absolutely
Good enough. All right.
Good.
Thank you so much for your perspective this morning.
We'll
My
be right
pleasure.
back.
All right.